The year is 1066, a year that would forever alter the destiny of England. On the morning of October 14th, two armies faced each other near the town of Hastings. William, Duke of Normandy, led his Norman invaders. King Harold II stood with his exhausted Saxons. What followed was one of the most decisive battles in history, the Battle of Hastings. This epic confrontation wasn't just a sudden clash of swords. Its roots ran deep into the heart of English politics. It all began with the death of a king. Edward the Confessor, King of England, died childless, leaving a power vacuum that ignited the ambitions of Europe's most powerful men. His death left the throne open to claim, and three contenders rose to seize it. First, there was Harold Godwinson, the most powerful and influential earl in England, a man chosen by the English council and, according to some, by Edward himself on his deathbed. Then, there was the formidable Harald Hardrada of Norway, a legendary Viking warrior who believed his lineage gave him a right to the English throne. And finally, there was William, the ambitious and ruthless Duke of Normandy, who claimed that King Edward had personally promised him the crown years earlier. When Harold was crowned, William felt betrayed. He was determined to take what he believed was his, with fire and blood if necessary. But Harold's troubles were just beginning. Before he could even confront William, a threat emerged from the north. Harald Hardrada of Norway, allied with Harold's own estranged brother, Tostig, invaded with a mighty army, aiming to conquer England for the Vikings. Harold Godwinson, now King of England, had no choice but to act. He force-marched his army nearly 200 miles north in just a few days. At Stamford Bridge, he caught the Norwegian invaders completely by surprise. The ensuing battle was brutal and bloody, a ferocious clash of axes and swords. In the end, Harold achieved a stunning victory. Hardrada and Tostig were both killed, and the Viking army was annihilated. It was a great victory, a testament to Harold's military genius. Yet it came at a terrible cost. His army was battered, exhausted, and drained of strength. And just as his men were beginning to recover, catastrophic news arrived from the south. William had landed at Pevensey Bay. He had brought thousands of well-trained soldiers, a massive force of cavalry, and skilled archers, an army ready for a full-scale invasion. Harold had won a battle, but now he had to turn around and march his weary soldiers another 250 miles south to face an even greater threat. The fate of England would be decided on a single hill near Hastings. On the morning of October 14th, Harold's army arrived and took up a defensive position on the high ground of what is now known as Senlac Ridge. His Saxon warriors, primarily infantry, locked their shields together, forming an almost impenetrable wall, a classic and highly effective Anglo-Saxon tactic. From this vantage point, they could repel any uphill charge. Down below, William gathered his Norman forces. His army was more diverse and tactically flexible. He had infantry, yes, but also a large contingent of archers, and most importantly, heavily armed knights on horseback. This combined arms approach was something the Saxons had rarely faced. The stage was set. Harold, defiant on the hill, urged his men to stand firm, telling them, "We are England's last shield." William, looking up at the formidable Saxon line, commanded his captains to break their wall, whatever it took. The battle began around 9 a.m., with a volley from William's archers. But their arrows mostly flew over the Saxons' heads, or harmlessly into the shield wall. Then came the infantry, slogging their way up the hill, only to be met by a hail of spears and axes. They were driven back with heavy losses. William, undeterred, sent in his greatest asset, the cavalry. Again and again, the Norman knights charged up the slope, their lances aimed at the Saxon line. Again and again, they were thrown back. The shield wall held firm, a wall of wood, steel, and raw courage. For hours the battle raged, and the Normans could not find a way through. It seemed Harold's defensive strategy was working perfectly, but William was a cunning commander, not just a brute. Seeing his direct assaults fail, he decided to use deception. He ordered a portion of his cavalry to charge, and then suddenly break and flee, feigning a retreat. It was a risky gamble, but it worked. Some of the less experienced Saxon militiamen, smelling victory, broke formation and charged down the hill in pursuit. This was the moment William had been waiting for. The Norman cavalry wheeled around, trapping the pursuing Saxons on open ground, and cut them down mercilessly. This tactic was repeated throughout the day, slowly but surely chipping away at the seemingly unbreakable Saxon shield wall. As the day dragged on and the sun began to set, the battle still hung in the balance. The Saxon line, though weakened and depleted, was still holding. William, growing desperate, made a fateful decision. He ordered his archers to change their aim. Instead of firing directly at the shield wall, they were to fire high into the air, letting the arrows rain down on the men packed behind the front line. It was a deadly barrage from above. Then it happened. One arrow, whether by a stroke of fate or a random shot in the chaos, flew true. It struck King Harold directly in the eye, mortally wounding him. As Harold fell, his personal standard, the fighting man, collapsed with him. Seeing their king and their banner fall, panic and chaos spread through the Saxon ranks. A cry went up, "The king is down! The king is down!" The shield wall finally broke. William raised his sword, sensing the moment of triumph. "Victory!" he roared. "Forward! To London!" With Harold dead and the Saxon leadership shattered, organized resistance collapsed. William marched his army toward London. After some initial resistance, the remaining English lords submitted to him. On Christmas Day, 1066, less than 3 months after landing on English shores, William, Duke of Normandy, was crowned King of England in Westminster Abbey. A new age had begun, the Norman Age. The Norman conquest was more than just a change of king. It was a profound transformation of the entire country. William systematically replaced the Anglo-Saxon lords with his own loyal Norman barons, creating a new ruling class. He solidified his power by building imposing stone castles across the land, symbols of Norman dominance like the Tower of London. The English language itself was forever changed, absorbing thousands of French words related to law, government, food, and art, evolving into the language we speak today. The very fabric of English society, from its laws to its architecture, was rewoven. England would never be the same. The Battle of Hastings was not just a fight for a crown. It was the birth of a new England, a pivotal moment that set the nation on a new course. As you walk the fields of Hastings today, or gaze upon the incredible story woven into the Bayeux tapestry, you're looking at the legacy of that one long, bloody day. A single arrow decided the fate of a kingdom, and from that moment forward, the island nation was forever changed, its destiny intertwined with that of continental Europe in a way it had never been before. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey back in time. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most important moments. We'll see you in the next one.